Hi guys, it's Rose, and welcome back to a spoonful of geekiness. And this is the first video of Spoopy season. This is my favorite time of year, if you guys haven't already guessed by cosplays and just my general excitedness. um, I am still indeed sick. I know that this video is a couple days late. But right now I am running on cold medicine and a lack of sleep. So ding! I thought I'd get as much content as done as I can before I kind of just crash. And I've done 3 cosplay photo shoots today. Just to knock those out of the way so, for the next couple days I can kind of just rest. So hopefully that'll go well and I'll be feeling better in a couple days. But anyways, today, since it is the very first, video of October, I decided to bring you some Spoopy season reads. Some books that I highly recommend that are kind of eerie or creepy or ghosty, all for the scariest season of the year. Hello, Muffin. Muffin says hi. So, first up for you, I have the classic Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. And this is so beautifully written. I will admit that it's a heavy read. It's definitely not like a light read. As you can see, the book, it has some width to it and very, very small writing. But it is an absolutely fascinating story. The new Madame de Winter, who marries the very, very popular and very, very rich Maxime de Winter, is brought into this kind of mysterious mansion where there are just hints and lingerings everywhere of the former Madame de Winter, Rebecca. Now, is it a ghost? Is it gaslighting? You'll have to find out. But there are memories of her everywhere, and it seems like the new Mrs. De Winter can't go more than a few steps without being reminded that there was someone very beautiful and very, very strong and full of willpower before her. It's a great read, and it's also a great movie. Both the original that was made, I believe, in the 40s, and the newer one that is an adaptation starring Lily James are both fantastic and both really stick to the whole eerie vibe of the book. It is both a romance and a thriller at the same time, and I must say, it's just beautiful. Up next, I have another classic. This one is a tiny bit newer, but I'm sure you've all heard of it, and that would be The Shining by Stephen King. Stephen King, anything by him is great for this time of year. He is an absolute master of horror. If you haven't read The Shining, I'm sure you've seen the movie starring Jack Nicholson, which is famously known for Stanley Kubrick's amazing cinematography, as well as the fact that Stephen King didn't actually like the adaptation. But it is a well-known and well-loved film by everyone who loves horror or cinematography, including me. The Shining is a great read. Don't just settle for the movie, because I can tell you, there's just, Stephen King is that kind of writer that there's so much in here, you really can't get it all from a movie. Its sequel, Dr. Sleep, is equally good, following the journeys of the young boy from The Shining, Danny, as he has grown up. That movie, however, was approved by Stephen King and is equally as intriguing. So, yes, The Shining by Stephen King, definite solid recommendation. Next is something that has become somewhat of a kind of pop culture phenomenon recently, and before that, the book wasn't actually that popular. And that is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I hate when they does anyone else hate this? When they put the movie or TV show pictures on the front of the book instead of just the original. I don't know if I'm the only one that bothers, but you know. So yes, Haunting of Hill House is a very, very fascinating read. Also, it has been massively popularized by Netflix's interpretation of it, going by the same name, The Haunting of Hill House. Now, whether you want to watch The Haunting of Hill House or whether you want to read it, the cast of characters is phenomenal. You have very, very fully fledged out stories that just entice you. You can smell the air, you can feel the creepiness and eeriness, and you're going to be looking over your shoulder for ghosts for quite a while. I suggest you actually do both, watch and read it, but that's completely up to you. The other thing that Netflix has adapted, I don't have a copy of the book myself, but it is an excellent book. Netflix has also, in the same Haunting series, adapted The Turnip Screw, which is another amazing, amazing book, and that has been adapted into what is titled on Netflix as The Haunting of Bly Manor. Excellent adaptation, very, very true to the story, with obviously modern takes thrown in, but all in all, great things to watch or read during this season. Now, if you're looking for something that's maybe not quite such a heavy read and something that you can break down into smaller parts, I have 3 suggestions for you. The first is The Tales of Cthulhu by H.P. Lovecraft. Anything written by H.P. Lovecraft is going to give you quite a scare. And let me just say now, if you don't like tentacles, this probably isn't for you. He's a very tentacly person. But H.P. Lovecraft has a ton of tales and short stories that you can digest one at a time or read all at once, as I do whenever I pick up my copy of The Tales of Cthulhu. It is a just very interesting take on horror. There has never been anyone quite like H.P. Lovecraft again. His work is very, very unique in its creature sense, and I'm not typically a creature kind of person. I prefer to stick with the paranormal or general supernatural. Not really monsters and stuff, but H.P. Lovecraft, he's got it down. Now, another thing that you can break into multiple small parts that will definitely give you a little bit of heart-racing adrenaline would be any of the original Grimm's fairy tales. These are kind of a staple in my life year-round. But for Halloween, you might want to take a look at these, because the Grimm's fairy tales are so vastly different from any Disney-fied or like kiddied down version of them, and they have the right name for it too. It is Grimm. So that's another thing that you could break down into some smaller things if you just want a good fun read. The last thing that you can also break down is anything by the master of horror himself, Edgar Allan Poe. I like to read Poe on a daily basis, and maybe am considering uploading a few poems by Poe read by me throughout the month of October, just for fun. He's written poems and short stories, and all of them have this beautiful mist of eeriness over them. Some are downright horrifying, while others just leave you with this kind of sense of unsettlement and unease. I think everyone should read Poe at least once. It's just good for you. But yes, Edgar Allan Poe is one of the masters of horror. There has been nothing quite like him either since. And he just falls into one of those categories with authors who just hit differently than anyone else, and especially in the horror category, it's great. Now, this isn't a read that you can break down, but it is kind of a short read, but it's a fun read also. And that is Pan's Labyrinth by Cornelia Funke and Guillermo del Toro. Guillermo del Toro is a master of visual horror. Or well, not visual horror, but cinematic horror. Anything this man puts out onto screen, I will watch it. And if you don't already know, there is actually a movie, and the book is based on the movie. It basically takes the movie and puts it in book form, called Pan's Labyrinth, or The Labyrinth of the Fawn. It is currently available on Netflix, if any of you are interested. But if you'd like to read, it is beautifully illustrated with filigree around the pages. It's just absolutely beautiful. It has beautiful illustrations inside, and overall, not only is it a spooky kind of read, it's also just a really good story. I mean, it's kind of a coming-of-age story, as well as how often the human world can represent evil just as much as the fictional or fairy world can. And it all focuses on a young girl who finds herself in a very unfortunate position with a new abusive stepfather, a very sick and pregnant mother, and then so many tests that this strange fawn arrives with, seeing if she's worthy. It's a beautiful book, beautiful movie as well, and it's definitely good for year-round also. I know I'm saying that with a lot of these, but it's true. Into some of the newer published books that I've read either recently or that have been published in the last, I don't know, like decade, that I've found really interesting. I'll be showing to you now. The first one is called The Companion by Katie Alexander. And I do have one more book by her, which is the start of a series, but this is a standalone book. It follows a girl who has been hired as a professional companion for a disabled girl, and strange things start happening once she takes the job. She moves in with her, and suddenly things start appearing everywhere. Notes like "get out of the house" and "run." And is it a ghost? Is it some malevolent presence? We don't know, but we do know something's not right. It was a very compelling read for me. It's about middle school level reading, but hey, young adult books these days kind of beat adult books recently. Don't ask me why. I don't know why the quality of writing adult books has gone down so tremendously, but yeah, that's a great read. The next book that I have by Katie Alexander is Bad Girls Don't Die. It turns into a trilogy, and it all starts because Alexis's little sister has an unhealthy obsession with dolls, and now her eyes have changed color. Possession, ghosts, all of the above. It's a good read for anyone if you like kind of mysteries and stuff that like teases out. Those are personally my favorite kind, things that don't give you answers right away. They just kind of tease out what's happening, which Katie Alexander is excellent at. She's very, very good at not giving you the whole story until the end, and even then you're left to draw your own conclusions. So I really like that. The next book I have up is a book that I recently bought, and that is House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. This, I'm not gonna lie, this is a creepy book. You will be definitely creeped out by the time you're done with this, but it's a good book. It's so good. I believe that this was in one of my other lists, or if not, it was definitely an honorable mention in my mind. It's a very, very good book. It is entirely based around these three sisters who disappeared one night and returned, but when they returned, they looked a little bit different. Their dark hair had turned white, and their light eyes had turned black, and they didn't remember what had happened to them. But they all shared one exact same scar, shaped like a crescent moon, right on their chin. It's a very interesting read, and also one that kind of teases things out and has you guessing the entire way up to the end. I couldn't guess the ending, and once I got there, it was just like, okay, that was brilliant. So yeah, that's another great book recommendation. Next up, I have, it is a classic, but it's not a super old classic, and that's Coraline by Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is one phenomenal and versatile writer. He has written things such as Good Omens, The Graveyard Book, Coraline. He's written so many different things, and he's just mastered all of it. He even wrote a Doctor Who episode. Like, come on, how much better can you get? So, Coraline is all about a young girl who feels like she doesn't quite fit in with her family. It is a shorter read, and there is also a movie, both of which I love, book and movie. And she feels like she doesn't fit in. So when she finds this magical other world where there seems to be just a better version of everything she has in hers, then she's intrigued. But as always, things aren't quite as they seem. It's a really great read, and it really pinpoints everything that, you know, young kids and adults should know. That the grass may look greener on the other side, but it isn't always. And never to take anything for granted. So, it's a good book. Last, but certainly not least, I have House of Salt and Sorrows. Oh my gosh, I love this book. It's by Aaron A. Craig. I read through it in one day. Look at this cover. It's so pretty. House of Salt and Sorrows is a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses tale, which, if you don't know about the 12 Dancing Princesses, and yes, the Barbie movie was kind of accurate, it's about 12 sisters who come back every night from no one knows where, with their shoes worn down to the soles and even holes in them from dancing away the night. No one knows why these girls' shoes are just suddenly being wrecked overnight, why they need so many pairs of new shoes. And ultimately, the king, or in this case Baron, I believe it's Baron, that is the father of these girls, he eventually says, well, let me tell you this. He gives out a wager to basically all of the eligible men in the area and says, listen, if you can figure out why my daughters are wearing through those shoes, where they're going, that they're dancing through them every single night, you can marry whichever one you want. And the same challenge is issued in this book, but there's a little bit of a twist. We don't start with 12 princesses, or, well, 12 highborn daughters. We start with 8. Because they've been mysteriously dying. Oldest to youngest order. So the 4 oldest sisters, they're all dead. And we actually start with the funeral of the 4th dead sister. And I loved this book. Not only do I love the original tale of the 12 Dancing Princesses, but also every single one of the sisters in this book is very fleshed out, very, very detailed. You know them by their traits and personalities. Also, they all have very, very unique names. That helps to set them apart from each other, because when we are dealing with that many characters, You need something to define each of them, and Aaron A. Craig did a phenomenal job with that. It is definitely spooky, and also it brings an element of the supernatural into the story of the 12 Dancing Princesses. It brings in the aspect of ghosts, hauntings, and are the spirits of their older sisters really still around? It also brings into question a lot of other things. So that would definitely be one of my top recommendations. It's one of the books that I've most recently read, and obviously one that I loved quite a lot. So I hope that these book recommendations can help you make your spoopy season a little bit more bookish, if you'd like. So with all that said and all those beautiful books, I hope that that was a spoonful of geekiness for you. And later on in the month, as I said in last week's video, I will be doing a complete origins of Halloween video explaining where it came from, the holiday it was derived from, and where we basically get all of our customs for it, because it's actually truly fascinating. Also, I'll be doing, hopefully, in the next 2 weeks, I will be doing a breakdown of American Horror Story, one of my favorite shows ever. Ranking seasons 1 through 10. Well, okay, 10 isn't finished yet, so it's not quite finished yet, but so it'll most likely be seasons 1 through 9. I'll rank all the seasons, give you a brief rundown on what they were about, because it is an anthology series with each season taking place somewhere differently, with a completely new set of characters, but the same cast, which they're all wickedly talented, by the way. So, hopefully I'll be able to bring you that content soon, and in the meantime, pick up a good book. I love you guys so much, and I hope that you are enjoying your October so far. I know I am. And as a madman in a box once said, run fast, laugh hard, and be kind. Bye, guys. So I have several different, So I have several different categories of books that, Muffin, go away.